How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Mixxo and welcome back to yet another video for the week. I'm not gonna lie, I've been on this roll lately. I've been putting out content very consistently and I've been putting out videos back to back, which is, I think, it's a first for my channel. I think this is the first time that I've posted 4 videos in a week. You know, I've just been so motivated lately to make videos for y'all, and I've been motivated to make all these different types of content. And for this time, we are doing the first tier list of 2025, and this tier list is actually going to be me talking about the movies, or the new movies that came out in 2024. Now, I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I didn't really watch a lot of new movies in 2024. I mean, I watched a good handful to a point where I could talk about and dedicate real time talking about every single movie that I watch. So, you know, that's a plus there. But definitely in this year, I am going to talk about more movies. And maybe by the end of the year, the tier list will be a lot more bigger. And I could do like a whole hour-long video of me discussing movies that I watched in 2025. But for now, we're gonna be discussing movies that I watched in 2024. So if you like videos like these, please drop a like and subscribe. But with that being said, let's get right on to the tier list. So let's do it. Okay, let's go, baby. I'm gonna introduce the tiers. So first we have Goated, which is pretty self-explanatory. These are some of the best movies that came out in 2024 in my opinion. And then next we have Great, pretty self-explanatory as well. I don't think it was the very best of the best in 2024, but I still thought it was a great watch. And then with that being said, we move down to Meh, and these are movies that I think have a lot of flaws, but I think they are still watchable. And you know, these are movies that I'm gonna discuss very much in detail of what I think it's wrong about the movie. And, you know, and as a film major, I'm gonna really give like heavy insight into what makes these movies great or not so great. So be on the lookout for that. And then the last tier we have is Basura. And if you don't know what that means, it basically means garbage in Spanish. So I thought I would throw in like a little curveball or a different title just to make the tier list a little fun. So let's just get started with the first movie we have. And the first movie, which is the most recent movie that I watched, is called I Saw the TV Glow. And with this movie, you know, it's hard to describe the genre it is. I would describe it as maybe this like sci-fi thriller, this coming of age, you know, drama. It also has a little bit of analog horror in it. And the only reason why I watched this movie is because I thought the movie poster looked really cool and it was giving me like Poltergeist vibes. So I was going into this movie thinking it was going to be like a horror movie, and there's a ton of messages in this movie and metaphors. And one of the messages that I got from this movie are people who watch a TV show, you know, as an escape from reality. And people can be so obsessed and enthralled into a TV show to a point where they actually imagine themselves, you know, as the main characters in that TV show. And they do that as a way to kind of distract themselves from real life. They could be people that are stuck in very shitty situations, whether that be, you know, stuck in abusive relationships or stuck in like a very troubled household, a very abusive household. But yeah, I Saw the TV Glow is a movie about these 2 teens, right? And it's a coming of age story about these 2 teens that share a bond over a TV show. And over time, and as he gets older, he becomes obsessed with this TV show. But towards the middle of the movie, the friend who he watches the show with, she goes missing. But then this movie starts to get like trippy, and it starts to make you question about things, because, you know, the main characters start to question if what they're seeing on TV is actually, you know, on TV. They start to confuse, you know, what they see on television to real life. And it's like this very trippy ass movie. And, you know, I'm not gonna say anything further, but, you know, if that already piqued your interest, then you should definitely go watch this movie. I will say, you know, it is pretty slow in the first half of the movie, you know, and in that first half, I was thinking, you know, where's this gonna go? You know, it's building up to something, but I don't know if it's actually gonna go there. And then to my surprise, it went into a whole new direction. And, you know, this movie is gonna have you question, you know, what you watched. You know, this isn't a movie with a clear plot or a clear ending. But like, going back to the movie, the cinematography, oh my god, the visuals and the lighting is just, it feels so intentional, and I love it for that. No, there's a lot of use of neon colors, you know, there's a lot of pinks, there's a lot of greens, there's a lot of teals in the movie. There's like these colored lights that reflect off the people's faces, and the way they use lighting and color in this movie is just so fascinating, and it's so cool to look at. Whoever did the cinematography for this movie deserves all the praise in the world. They did a great job of invoking emotions with, you know, the camera angles. There will be a shot of this person, you know, in the distance, and he will be like all alone, sitting like on a bench or just walking by himself, and that invokes like a feeling of isolation. And there's also very intense scenes where the camera is like moving all around all crazy, and that invokes an emotion of anxiety. So I've said a lot of good things about this movie. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if I would watch it again. Now I am gonna rewatch it with the context I know now, but for now I'm probably gonna put this movie in great, and I do recommend it. Alright, well, next up we have Madam Web. Oh my fucking god. Here's how I feel about Madam Web. Where do I start? First of all, the writing in this movie, I think I saw a TikTok too. I'm pretty sure there was a TikTok of someone looking up like who wrote the script for this movie, and I think they found out that the script is written by first-time, screenwriters, which is which is insane, right? It's like if you were to take, two, film students from a film school, and these are the type of students who maybe went to film school just to watch the movies. You know what I'm saying? Or to get like an easy grade. But yeah, the writing is fucking god awful. There's like and the pacing feels so rushed, and it's like so random and inconsistent. And the villain, oh my god, this is probably the worst villain of the year. I mean, this guy could be just an average Joe that I see, at the DMV waiting in line. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is nothing threatening about this villain. He doesn't even deliver his lines in a menacing way. Like, the way he's saying his lines is the way you would read lines, at a table read, or like while reading a script in private. You know what I'm saying? Like, I fucking hate it. And you know what? I said there wasn't gonna be any spoilers, but fuck it. No one cares about this movie anyway. So they promote this movie as these women, or this like spider superpower group that are gonna suit up and fight crimes and shit, and it's gonna be like a fun blast, right? They don't even suit up. They don't even wear their fucking superhero suits until the very last scene of the fucking movie. Like, what, dude? Oh my god. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Dakota Johnson the chick from 50 Shades of Grey? It is. Hold on, y'all. I have an idea. I'm never confused. I sincerely apologize for that moment. Oh, I'm out of focus. This is what I deserve, bro. Yeah, you know what? Put me out of focus. That I deserve that for that shit that I just pulled. Put that shit in basura, way. God damn, bro. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Get the fuck out of here. Next up, oh, fucking hell, dude. Oh my god. Okay, next up we have is Imaginary. For those that don't know, this is a horror movie. Apparently, even though the movie's not even scary at all. Think about this movie as Annabelle meets Poltergeist meets Coraline. They just throw a bunch of random shit in this movie, and do I even call it a movie? I don't fucking know. And for those that are curious about what this movie's about, it follows a stepmom. I think she's a stepmom. I don't even fucking know at this point. And she's with her child. And, they have this family, and the child has a bear that's, like, attached to her all the time. And apparently it's, like, an imaginary friend. But in reality, it's, like, this demon monster. And then this demon monster ends up convincing her to make a portal. And this portal transports them into, like, this alternate universe where everything seems so perfect and everything is like all cool and imaginary. But in reality, it's like this hell space, and there's like this spider monster that keeps on following the little girl that wants to suck her soul or whatever the fuck. It's just it's just a shit show of a movie. The acting is also mediocre. It's just a big old mess, and this is going in basura as well. Fuck this movie. Okay, but next up we have Megamind. And look, I'm gonna be honest, I did not even see this movie at all, but I have seen a trailer for it, and the reason why I put it on here is because why the fuck would you reboot or make a sequel for this movie without the main cast, without the director, and the animation? I think this is a Netflix movie, bro. Like, this this wasn't even released in theaters, bro. At least I don't hope so, right? And this movie is basically Megamind, but without the humor, The animation's 10 times worse. The writing, oh my god, the writing is just so corny. And the script was dumbed down to appeal to kids, which is just, like, why? Why the fuck would you do that, bruh? And this movie's just a fucking nothing burger. It's just an absolute bland piece of shit. Why does this movie exist? And I didn't even watch this movie, but like, from the trailer alone, I could tell that this movie is just not it. And I don't even know why this shit exists. So 3 movies in a row, we have Basura, which is, fucking hell, dude. Okay, next movie we have is Godzilla and Kong. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought I was gonna like this movie when it came out. And I mean, this movie is mainly a Godzilla movie, if I'm being honest. You know, King Kong, you know, has parts in it, but, you know, he's not really the main focal point of this movie. And, you know, and Godzilla's just not really doing anything cool. You know, he's like walking around destroying shit, and it's just and the plot, even like the human characters, don't really interest me at all. I mean, the visual effects are cool. I mean, I'll give it that. And I mean, I guess the fight scenes are really cool too. But yeah, that's really the only bright spots for me in this movie, is the fight scenes and the visual effects. Other than that, I mean, you know, it's not bad, but I will not watch it again. So I would just put it in meh for now. Next up, we have Late Night with the Devil. Now, this is a found footage horror movie, and it's about this TV show, this late night TV show host who has a broadcast of his show on Halloween, and then he brings on this girl who's apparently possessed by this demon. And then there's all this weird shit that happens throughout the movie, and it's like in the perspective of the camera that's, you know, broadcasting the TV show. And the TV show talk host has like this dark past, and we don't find out about it until the end. And it's just a really trippy movie. I will say that there is times where the special effects or the visual effects are kind of, you know, seem low budget. Specifically, for example, there's this one scene where the psychic guy, he like spits out like this black goo, and the black goo looks fake as fuck. You know, it looks like really low effort CGI, and like there's other moments like that as well. And yeah, and this demon girl like starts doing all this crazy shit, and she kind of wreaks havoc throughout the whole movie. I think it was a very unique concept. I think the story's cool. I think the ending's pretty cool as well. You know what? I'm gonna bring back good for this one, because this is a very standard good horror film. You know, it's nothing great. It's not the best horror film that I watched this year. Yeah, we're gonna put this in good. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I watched a lot of bad movies this year. That is funny as hell. But yeah, we have Strangers, chapter 1. Now this is a, I guess, reboot of the movie franchise, and the plot of the original movie is you have these 3 people in like these very scary looking masks that are stalking this couple inside their home. You know, they're popping up at the front door, they're popping up in front of the windows, they even break into the house at one point, and you know, they turn off the lights, and it kind of turns into like this predator versus prey situation. And you know, it's a very cool concept. And I love the movie because it is so tense and, you know, anxiety inducing. You don't know when they're gonna pop up. But with this reboot, I mean, it's just a very bland and plain old slasher film. It lacks any intensity. The characters in this movie are just stupid, but it's not even funny. It's just very, well, it is kind of funny, but you could tell they're not trying to go for funny. You know, they were trying to make a serious film with this movie, and it just falls flat. The acting is just fucking it just lacks all the good qualities from the original movie. So with that being said, of course this is going in basura once again. Damn, this is so fucking bad, dude. But finally we can move on to Furiosa, which, you know, if I had a category, or if I had to pick a movie for the most badass movie of the year, this would be it. This is a spin-off from the Mad Max universe, and this focuses on the origin of Furiosa, who was in Mad Max Fury Road. And this whole movie is her origin story of her rise in the wasteland and her earning respect among all the other hunters in the Mad Max universe. And yeah, this movie this movie's so good, bro. This is probably my favorite action movie of the year. Out of all the action movies I watched this year, this probably has the best, you know, fighting scenes, fighting choreography that I've seen. The cinematography, oh my god, the cinematography is stunning in this movie. There's a lot of cool camera angles, there's a lot of cool like wide shots and distance shots, and then there's this one scene in particular that I love, and they're having this whole fight scene on top of this convoy, this 18-wheeler truck that's like transporting some type of like gasoline or some type of like product, and there's like this squad of raiders that are trying to ambush the convoy, and it's like this super cool fight scene. People are like flying in the sky with parachutes, and they're like shooting people, and there's like this car explosion, and the fight scenes are just super cool, man. Like, oh, like inject that shit into my veins, bro. Like, oh my god, I shook my monitor. I got a little too excited there. And there's this one group of hunters that's led by Chris Hemsworth, who, if you don't know, plays Thor in all the Marvel movies. But he plays a villain in this movie, and I thought that was a very unique choice. I don't think I've seen Chris Hemsworth play a villain in any movie, and I'm not gonna lie, like his acting was super good in this movie. This might be his best role to date. Like, I'm not even joking. This man acted his ass off. He was such a convincing villain, which is a surprise because we know him as like a superhero type of character, or like this cool badass dude, and to see him play like this very evil dude and this person who like brutally murders people on screen, which is insane. And he just acts his ass off in the role, and I love him as a villain in this movie. I think Anya Taylor-Joy, who plays Furiosa, I think she's also a standout in this movie. She's so badass in her role. And yeah, and if you're a fan of action movies or very high paced, intense movies, this movie's definitely for you. I guess my only gripe with it is, we do follow a young Furiosa for a long time in the movie. Like, basically the first half of the movie is her just kind of surviving in the wasteland. It may drag on for some people, but for me, I didn't really have an issue with it. But there were times where I did say to myself, like, like this scene could have been cut, or this scene could have been shortened. But other than that, I thought it was a pretty great movie, and I think that's very respectable, and I probably would rewatch it again. I mean, I thought it was very badass. Now, it's funny because I have not seen the first Mad Max movie, Fury Road, but as a spin-off and as a standalone movie, I think this is great. Okay, next up we have A Quiet Place Day One, and as the title says, this is a movie about how the whole outbreak and how like these monsters came into Earth. And it's funny because they are apparently aliens, and they were sent to Earth through like these meteors that crashed down, and they were like in these meteors, and then they eventually broke out, and like all hell was let loose throughout the whole world. And then we follow a group of these survivors. The main character is like this cancer patient, and she's terminally ill, but they have to survive in this new world that they have to adapt to, and they eventually learn that these monsters rely on sound to find their victims and eat them, I guess. But then there's a part of me that says, did we really need this movie? Did we need an origin story, about the outbreak? Because I feel like the story with, in the first movie with the family, and then you go into the sequel that follows the story, I think those were much more interesting stories. I think the characters in those movies were a lot more appealing, and I think they had better chemistry, and I just thought it was a lot more compelling compared to this like prologue or this prequel movie. Nothing feels new in this movie. It just feels like a retelling of the first two movies, and there isn't too many new ideas introduced in this movie. Like I said, it just feels like a retelling of the first movie, but with a different cast. So with that being said, I don't think it was bad in any way though, but I would just put this in meh. Next up, we have Inside Out 2, which, in the last video, I did mention this movie as being the highest grossing film of 2024. And with it being the highest grossing film, is it a good movie? And if you were to ask me, I think this is a very cool story. I like the story a lot. It's basically about Riley going through puberty and going into her teenage years. And this movie shows, the anxiety and, all the worries that you may have going into like a new part of your life. Puberty and middle school, or high school even. It is a very scary transition, and I think this movie really encapsulates that feeling, and they introduce these new characters like anxiety, and then you have characters like embarrassment, envy, and I think they do a good job of introducing and implementing these characters to the plot. They all serve a purpose within this movie. Now, I would say the only downside for this movie is I don't think it has the same emotional impact as the first movie did. And there is quote unquote tearjerker scenes in this movie, or scenes that are gonna leave you a little emotional. I don't think it just hits the same as how the first first movie did. And I think it's a pretty decent sequel to the first movie. And the animation, I forgot to talk about the animation, I'm so stupid. The animation is, of course, I would say better than the first movie. Very stunning colors and visuals, you know, and that's gonna be a theme for like every Inside Out movie that they make. It's gonna be like eye-popping colors, it's gonna be very vibrant, and that adds a unique charm to the movie. So with that being said, I will put this in good. Okay, next up, okay, here we go, guys, here we fucking go. Next up, we have Deadpool versus Wolverine. I might say a couple spoilers for this movie, so if you haven't seen this movie yet, feel free to click off or skip to the next movie timestamp. Deadpool and Wolverine is probably my favorite movie to come out of last year. You know, seeing the remaining list that I have, I will definitely say, you know what? Oh, that's tough. Deadpool and Wolverine is such a great... I think this movie, this movie, of course, has some great action scenes, but I feel like the comedy, took a step up in this movie. And not to say that the other movies didn't have great comedy, but I feel like the chemistry between Deadpool and Wolverine, Deadpool being like this very, witty, this very charismatic and cocky, superhero, while Wolverine is like this very, asshole, this very really I don't give a shit type character, you know what I'm saying? I think their dynamic works so well in this movie. Their chemistry is absolutely amazing. And just to see these two characters make their way into, the MCU universe is pretty cool, man. I'm excited to see what they do with the characters. I definitely do want to see Deadpool and Wolverine together again. Like I said, they have such good chemistry on camera, and Hugh Jackman, oh my god. I don't know if Deadpool and Wolverine is nominated for Oscars, but Hugh Jackman deserves a fucking Oscar, dude. He acted his absolute ass off. Especially, oh my god, especially the car scene where they're talking, and then Wolverine gets to a breaking point where he just punches the fucking roof of the car, and then he goes on this long ass rant or this monologue where he's talking about, or he's dissing, Deadpool's insecurities. And it's such a very brutal scene. And and it affects Deadpool in a way where he actually feels something, and he feels like, damn, like you would say that shit to me? That's crazy. And I love the way, he acted in that scene. I thought it was such a good scene. Fight scenes, on the fight scene that follows that is probably my favorite and probably the most creative fight scene that I've seen in a long time. Just having them fight in this very contained space. They're in like this little ass car and then they're like fucking using the belts to like choke each other, and they're using the belt buckles to like stab each other and shit, and it's such a creative fight scene, and I love that. And let's talk about the intro, the very first intro scene where he's dancing to Bye Bye Bye. And it's funny because a lot of the fight, or a lot of like the jabs that he punches are like in sync with the beat, so he just had and it's so, oh my god, my fucking hoodie fell. But the choreography for the intro is just so good, man. I haven't even gotten to the cameos. I love the way they did like these cameos for this movie. They brought back some characters from like the old Sony Wolverine movies. You have people like Johnny Storm, and you have some of the villains from those movies. And then there's this scene where Wolverine and Deadpool are brought to this shelter where Elektra is living there, and then you get Gambit, who's being played by Channing Tatum. And for those that don't know that lore, Channing Tatum was supposed to play Gambit a long time ago when they were still making those Sony Wolverine X-Men movies, and Gambit was supposed to have his own standalone movie, but it never got made. And I think it's just so cool to bring him back for this movie. But I think my most surprising cameo is obviously Blade, who is being played by Wesley Snipes, who played Blade in the old movies. And with superhero movies, bringing back these characters for like nostalgia and stuff, I think it's different in Deadpool and Wolverine because they all serve a purpose in this movie. They all get extended screen time. It's not just, they pop up for like 2 minutes and then they just leave the whole movie, you know what I'm saying? But man, I could talk for 2 hours just yapping about how good this movie is. But I'm not gonna do that because we have other movies to go through. But I am gonna put this in goated. I think it's an easy choice for me. But yeah, like I said, I don't really have any flaws with this movie. It is a long movie, but I think it earns its runtime because the acting and the plot is just so good. So with that being said, that's my first goated movie of the year. Okay, so next up we have Borderlands, which I don't know how I managed to watch all these mediocre movies. Like damn, I was tuned out like most of the year. You know, I didn't really go to the movies as much. I didn't really watch any movies on streaming. But, you know, for the shit that I did watch, it was not really good. Where do I start, bruh? You know, all I'm gonna say, you know, the one thing that pisses me off about this movie is the casting. Like, oh, the casting is just so weird. You know, they have all these A-list actors play these roles of the characters from the game, but it just feels so forced. Like, it feels like the director and the people in this movie don't know a goddamn thing about Borderlands. And, you know, trying to convince us that they are these characters from that world is just so weird, and it just feels very, like, unnatural. The CGI is also pretty low budget, and it feels very, like, clunky and very weird. Like, I mean, I feel like the only person that understood the assignment was Jack Black as Claptrap. I thought that was a pretty cool choice to have him voice act that character, and you know, he has some pretty funny lines here and there. But like, when it comes to like the rest of the script and just like the fight scenes and just the lines are just so corny. And it's weird because the director of this movie, Eli Roth, he is not really known for making action movies. You know, his main forte is, you know, horror. He directed, you know, most of the Hostel movies, and you know, that's what he's known for. I don't know why the production or the studio felt like he could be the one to direct this Borderlands movie. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this movie went through like a bunch of directors, because I remember seeing this movie like a few years ago, like saying that it was in production, but then I think the director left, and then they brought in a new director, and then he left the project. And you know, it is a red flag if you have that many directors leave the production, and maybe that goes to show how bad the script was, you know what I'm saying? And you know, unfortunately, I do have to put this on basura. But and it's funny too, because there's just so many other movies or TV shows based on video games that are just made way more better. Like, for example, Fallout. Oh my god, I just watched it recently. Fallout, the TV show, is such a good watch, and I was worried about it too, because you know, recently when it comes to like video game movies, they have always been hit or miss. I mean, of course we had hits with like Sonic and The Last of Us, but then you have movies like Super Mario Brothers and, you know, Borderlands, and you know, maybe the Minecraft movie, but you know, only time will tell for that, right? But you know, these are movies that, you know, if it seems like the director has no clue of what, you know, the game is or any of the lore in the game, and that's how I feel about Borderlands. But then compare that to Fallout, I mean, they really paid attention to the lore and the source material from the games, and I just wish that directors did that more, because a majority of these directors did not grow up with video games. You know, a lot of these people are like 40 or 50 years old that maybe have little to no experience with video games, you know? But like I said, there are standouts in that video game movie universe that I like, but this is not one of them. Okay, next up we have Trap. Now, this is a M. Night Shyamalan movie, and for those that don't know, M. Night Shyamalan is a director who has some very famous, you know, horror movies and thrillers. He directed Split. He directed The Sixth Sense, which is probably his most famous movie. But you know, he is very known for his horror movies. This movie is about this man who is a known serial killer, and he brings his daughter to a concert. And apparently the FBI knows that he's going to that concert. And throughout this whole movie, he is trying to avoid the cops, and he goes through all these obstacles. And it's basically a simple basic plot of, you know, mouse versus cat, or cat chasing mouse type plot. And this whole movie is a goose chase of him trying to avoid the cops, and it is a unique concept if they did it right, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it would have been a cool idea, or like for like a plot twist for him not to be the serial killer, and like this movie has us believing that he is the serial killer. You know, everything from like his expressions to his reactions to people like dying, or the way he reacts every time someone brings up the serial killer. And I think that would have been such a cool twist if we find out like towards the end of the movie that he is actually not the serial killer, and instead is like somebody completely different or somebody close to him, you know what I'm saying? But no, that movie does not have any of that, and if I'm being honest, there is no plot twist. And I guess maybe that's the plot twist. There is no plot twist. I mean, it's a very straightforward plot, you know, it goes from point A to point B. But I do consider this one of M. Night Shyamalan's weakest movies, and I hate to say that because he is such a good director, but for that reason I'm gonna put it in meh. Okay, next up we have Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, which is the long-awaited sequel to Beetlejuice, which is a movie that came out I think in the 1980s, and I remember my mom used to be a big fan of this movie. we would always watch it together, and I love the first movie. And you know, after watching the trailer and seeing hype for it, it got me hyped for the movie. And this was one of my most anticipated movies going into 2024. But after seeing the movie in full, I'm not gonna lie, y'all, there's something missing from this movie for me compared to the first. Like, it was this dark comedy, and it had like a certain charm to it. And I thought the characters in the original movie were super compelling. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all, it just didn't hit the same for me as watching the first movie. And it makes me think, did they really have to make a sequel? And I have like a slight feeling that this movie was kind of pushed to release because Winona Ryder had such a resurgence when she was one of the main characters from Stranger Things. And she did have this breakout into the spotlight again. And then of course you have Jenna Ortega, who plays the daughter of Winona Ryder. And of course Jenna Ortega blew up because of Wednesday. So combining the two together is like a no-brainer, I guess. But for me, I just think the plot's very bland. And of course they introduced this villain character who's supposed to be Beetlejuice's ex-wife, and she wants to get revenge on Beetlejuice because I think before Beetlejuice was in the afterlife and before Beetlejuice died, I think he killed her for some reason, and that's why she wants to get revenge on him. But like I said, I'm just not too convinced by the sequel. Maybe that's just me, and I've heard some praise for the sequel, so maybe it's just a me thing. But you know, in my tier list, in my personal tier list ranking, I'm gonna put this in a meh. Okay, next up we have Speak No Evil. Now for those that don't watch any like foreign horror films or are not tuned into that genre of film, this is the American adaptation of that film, and it follows the plot of this family who goes on vacation to Europe, and then they meet this other family, and this other family's kind of strange. They have a son who doesn't talk or is mute, and you know, the strange family, they invite the normal family or the American family to their home for the weekend. And let me just say, bro, like like if this was real life, like say for example, you know, I'm out and about, right, in Italy or Rome, and then there's like this random ass dude who I just met, right? He walks up to me, and then we have like a conversation and we hang out for a minute, and then suddenly he says, "Hey dude, you want to hang out with me in my crib for the weekend? You know, it's in bumfuck nowhere, but we're gonna have a lot of fun." Like, dog, I just met you, bruh. I'm just not gonna hang out at some random person's house for a weekend just because we had one good conversation, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, and then they spend the weekend at this family's house, and they start to notice like very strange behavior. Like for example, the father of the son who's mute is a little abusive to him, and he's very controlling, and he kind of has these random outbursts of like anger, and he's doing all these little things to piss him off. And then spoiler alert, the normal family eventually finds out that this family is not who they say they are. They've been lying to them this whole time, and their true intentions are they want to murder, you know, the couple or the husband and wife, and they want to kidnap the child, and they want to raise her as their own. Well, I'm not gonna lie, this whole movie, besides the ending, which I'm gonna talk about, is basically the exact same as the foreign film that came out, I don't know how many years ago now. But yeah, they're the exact same plots, they're the exact same, you know, story, and there's some scenes in this movie that mimic the exact same scenes from the original adaptation. I think overall this movie is a fine recreation of the original. I don't know if I would watch it again, but like I said, I think the ending throws me off, and it's probably like my least favorite part of the movie. But with that being said, I will put it in good, honestly. Okay, next movie we have is The Wild Robot. I'm not gonna lie, y'all, DreamWorks has been on a generational run when it comes to like their recent movies. Like, you have movies such as The Wild Robot, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which was also an amazing movie, and then we're gonna have the live adaptation of How to Train Your Dragon, which should be a banger as well. And then we're gonna get Shrek 5 and next year, I think. So, you know, DreamWorks is on an absolute roll, but this is an original IP. You know, other than Sonic 3, this is probably my most favorite animated movie of the year, and it follows the story of this robot, right? But she gets stranded in a place where it's mostly inhabited by animals like gooses and foxes and ducks, and then she finds this nest where there lays like a single egg, and eventually that egg cracks and it's like this goose, and the robot takes it upon herself to raise the goose as her own. So it's kind of like themes of like being a mother and like motherhood, or like raising a child, and this robot like adapts and learns to become a mother figure for this goose. And it's low-key a coming of age story. You know, we're following the life of this goose as he grows up to become a, you know, an adult or teenage goose. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all, like out of all the movies, this is probably one of the movies that made me cry the most. And you know, it is a very emotional movie. I mean, there is a scene, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but there is a scene where you know, the mom and the goose that she's raised her whole life, they have to go their separate ways. And the way they directed it and the way they wrote it is just such an emotional moment. And I'm not gonna lie, bro, I shed a couple tears from that scene, bro. And even towards the end, like, the ending killed me, bro. And like I said, DreamWorks, this is probably one of the best movies they put out in a long time, maybe in like 10 years. I think that's the last time they probably put out a good movie like this. Or you know what, no, because I think, weren't they responsible for Puss in Boots: The Last Wish? But when it comes to like original property, you know, a new idea, a new concept, this is probably the best that they've done in a long time. And I'm not gonna say anything further, but I'm gonna put it in GOATed. Our next official movie is Joker. Oh my fucking god. Man, we were doing so good, but now we have to talk about another shitty ass movie. You know how I feel about this movie? Get out! You know, sounds about right. Joker 2 is a movie, I guess. I mean, you know, I talked a little bit about it in my last video, and I was saying that DC has this very weird tendency to, you know, introduce us to new ideas, new concepts. You know, they make this standalone Joker movie. People love this movie, and I absolutely love the first Joker movie. It has a great message. It has some pretty intense scenes that work so well. The cinematography is like so stunning in the movie, and Joaquin Phoenix absolutely acts his ass off in the first Joker movie. Like, he absolutely dominated that role. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all, his performance is like not on the same level, but it's like so close to Heath Ledger. Like, that's how good his performance was in that movie. But now we go into Joker 2, and I just don't know what the hell went wrong, bro. You know, they turned it into a musical, and I thought maybe it could work. Like, the slightest chance it could work. And I thought maybe it could have been like this cool, dark, you know, comedic, or this very dark, gothic musical. But instead, it is not the case. It is like this love story between Joker and Harley Quinn. Now, speaking of Harley Quinn, Lady Gaga is barely in this fucking movie, bro. And I feel like a lot of the character acting that we saw in the first Joker movie from Joaquin Phoenix is sacrificed so that way they can put, you know, all these musical numbers and all these random ass, you know, songs in this movie. And, you know, it kills the vibe for me. It was an interesting choice. I don't know why or who even gave the idea to make this a musical sequel, even though the first movie was none of that at all. And, you know, it was just such a miss. This completely flopped in the box office, which is deserving, because I mean, I don't know how. And like I said, bro, like, DC's inconsistency with movies needs to be studied, bro. I don't know how they keep doing this. And for the longest time, I have thought, you know, DC and the movies they put out, you know, they would eventually not take over Marvel, but they can be as good as, you know, Marvel's praise when it comes to movies, because I am such a fan of the characters from the DC universe. You know, I'm a huge Batman fan, and I'm a huge Superman fan, and I think DC has all these interesting villains, and they have these really cool story arcs that I want to see on the big screen. But then they do shit like this, and it just pisses me off, bro. I don't want to talk about this movie anymore. This movie is gonna go in straight up basura. So, you know, goodbye, good riddance. And it's sad, man. Like, it could have been such a great franchise or a great series if they just build off of what they did in the first movie, but they didn't. So for that, you know, it rightfully goes in garbage. Like, I'm sorry. I mean, it is what it is. Okay, next up we have Venom 3: The Last Dance. Now, I will say, I don't think it's horrible by any means, but when it comes to the Venom movies, the thing that throws me off and the thing that I hate, well, not hate, but the thing I dislike about like the Venom series is the writing. Now I don't think it's as bad as Madam Web, but when it comes to like the writing and the lines and the acting, I just think it could be way better. It just feels very mid, and a lot of the plot points that they introduce in these movies are just not that interesting to me. You know, Venom is cool as like this alter ego or this character that Tom Hardy's character Eddie Brock has to deal with, you know, for the whole series. I think there's a cool dynamic between them, having to deal with the duality of man versus evil. And like I said, I think the action scenes are cool, but also the CGI, oh my god, the CGI is just very weird, it's very clunky. And I'm not gonna lie, I can't even tell you like what happened in this movie. It just felt like such a nothing burger. I mean, the only part that I really tuned in for was the ending. you know, where they had that cool fight scene with that giant ass alien, and then it was like this whole like symbiote battle, and you know, it was just fucking crazy and shit, and I liked that part of the movie. But other than that, I think the movie was like such a slow burner, and I don't know if this version of Venom could easily fit into the MCU. I think I would rather just have them reboot Venom in the MCU, like have them be played by like a whole new character or a whole new version of Eddie Brock, because this version of him is just completely bland in my opinion. Like, I was never convinced by the character at all. But like I said, it is not the worst of the year, and it's completely mid in every sense of the definition. So with that being said, I'm putting that in meh. Okay, our last two movies. Our next movie is Mufasa, and oh my god, bro. I know we have one more movie that I'm excited to talk about, but this is the last movie where I just asked myself why. You know, oh, my hoodie keeps falling off. Oh my god, that is so fucking annoying. Okay. Why? You know, why did this need to be made? Who the fuck asked for a Mufasa origin story? And it doesn't help that I wasn't a big fan of the live action Lion King when it came out. So for them to make a spin-off based on Mufasa's life and his upbringing was very interesting. But like I said, I think this movie is also just a big old nothing burger. I don't think it really adds anything to the first movie story, and I don't even think it's interesting enough to have its own story, you know what I'm saying? And for it being known as a musical, another gripe that I have with it is the songs are not memorable at all. Yeah, if I had to pick a movie for the category of why does this movie exist, this movie would be the definition of that. But yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna put this in basura yet again. We have more movies in the trash tier list than we do in any other, which is fucking crazy, man. Oh my god, what an ugly year for bad movies, bruh. But that leaves us with our last and final movie to rank, which is Sonic 3. Now, I had the pleasure of seeing this movie when I was in Texas on vacation, and I got to watch it with my homie Miguel. Shout out my boy Miguel if you're watching this. Shout out to you, brother. But this was his second time watching this movie, while it was my first time watching this movie. And I'm not gonna lie, I went into this movie with no expectations at all. I didn't even plan on watching this movie. Like, I've seen the first two movies, and I thought they were pretty good. But for some reason, I just did not have an inkling in my body to, you know, get out of my chair to go see this movie. But I am happy that I didn't see a trailer for this movie, or I didn't know anything about it going into it. So it was a nice surprise when it came out the theater, and I ended up really enjoying this movie. And of course, we need to talk about Shadow. I love what he did in this movie. You know, for him to be a very standoff villain, you know, a guy that has trauma and a dark past behind him. And I like the way they told that story for his character. And crazy enough, I did not even know about this, you know, going into the movie. But Keanu Reeves plays Shadow in this movie, and I just don't know how it did not compute in my mind that that was Keanu Reeves' voice. And I enjoyed that very dark and deep voice that he did for Shadow. I think that fit the character so well, and I do believe Keanu Reeves absolutely crushed his role as Shadow. And of course, my stand-up performance of this movie, and honestly the past two movies, are Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik. I mean, he plays such a good, goofy villain role. For him to play Dr. Robotnik is just, yo, like, it fits him so perfect, bruh. And he is my favorite performance of this movie. Now, I do have a gripe with this movie, and that has to do with Sonic. More specifically, his humor. You know, Sonic is known for having those witty one-liner jokes, and I feel like it worked really well for the first movie. The second movie also had its moments, but when it came to this movie and Sonic's humor and Sonic's, you know, funny lines, it just kind of fell flat for me. Like, I don't like the way they dumbed down his humor in this movie, and that is something that I am scared of going into the fourth movie when they make it. You know what I'm saying? If Jim Carrey does not appear in Sonic 4, or he doesn't have a major role in the movie, I am worried if Sonic can be the one to fill in that gap for Jim Carrey when it comes to like humor and like funny lines and funny, you know, stuff that he does in the movie. And who knows, maybe they'll introduce a comic relief character in the fourth movie that kind of solves that problem. But like I said, I am worried about the comedy going into the fourth movie. But other than that, when it comes to this third movie, I think everything else was pretty fun. The action scenes are pretty cool, especially, oh my god, the last scene, the fight scene with, you know, I'm not gonna say anything further, but just know there is a very badass fight scene between Shadow and Sonic that is just fucking balls to the wall crazy. It is super fun. When it comes to the most fun movie of 2024, this movie might be it. Now, would I put it in GOATed? Maybe, I don't know yet for sure. But for the third movie, I think it is really good. I think it's even great. So with that being said, I will put it in great. And yeah, that is my full movie tier list. That was super fun, y'all. I had a blast talking about movies, and like I said, y'all, I am going to talk about more movie discussions in the future, you know, whether that be in the form of a tier list or even a standalone movie discussion. You know, expect some standalone discussions for a Minecraft movie, Captain America, Superman especially. You know, this year, I'm excited for this year, man. This year is gonna be awesome. I have one more video relating to 2025. I am soon going to be doing a 2025 setup tour. I do need to replace my strip lights because, like I said in my last video or 2 videos ago, that battery broke, so it no longer turns on, or it does, but like it starts flickering a little bit, and you know, it's kind of annoying, and I can't turn it off, so I just have to unplug it. So I need to replace these strip lights, but once I get those installed, I'm gonna be doing a new setup video for 2025, so be on the lookout for that. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye, peace.